Okay guys, today we're going to clean the mass airflow sensor on the MR2 Roadster. If you've got any trouble with like a rough idle or some check engine lights, if you haven't been able to read the codes, this can help clean that up. Also sometimes can bring in a bit more power at the top end or bottom end depending on just if your car is running a little bit rough. It's also a very good maintenance mod to do. If you've done an intake like mine, I'll bring you guys into the engine bay and explain my intake to you in just a second because I have made this myself out of an old airbox. I'm quite pleased with it. It is noisy, but it's very cool. So let's get you into the engine bay. I'll show you the intake and I will show you how to remove the mass airflow sensor to clean it. Okay guys, we're in the engine bay now. Obviously the battery's out. Here is the standard battery clamp. So just so you guys know for future, this hook end on the bottom hooks underneath the plastic tray. There's a little dip just at the end of the rod here where it sits, and then it goes inside this piece like so, and that 10mm nut is just what you tighten down to clamp your battery in place. I've already got it out the way. As a note, always disconnect your negative terminal first. If the negative is detached, then the positive can't do anything because it's not grounded. So negative off, then positive, and the battery's out the way. Super easy. But here is my custom intake. These are a bit controversial in the MR2 world. I've had zero troubles with mine. If you're on the forums, everyone says you're going to get crazy check engine lights or it won't idle. This thing's been great to me. I did go for an oversized filter, and as you can see, it's been catching on the battery tray, so it's got a bit of a hole in it. Obviously, the solution here, use a smaller filter. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm just going to send it. But all I've used, this is some 71mm silicone hose. You can buy this on eBay in lengths. I think it was like £7 or £8. I'm using the stock Jubilee rings that came with the standard intake to fit it, so you didn't need to buy anything there. And it is a 45-degree bend because the throttle body back here is the inlet is at a bit of an angle. Ideally, you want a 35-degree bend. Good luck finding that though. 45 is alright. You can just manipulate it into place and cut it down to an appropriate length. And then for the mass airflow sensor, there are 3D printed tubes available. But what I've done is I just took a standard airbox, and I will try and just wiggle this whole assembly out to show you closer, but it's a standard airbox that I've just cut up, and that's where the mass airflow sensor lives with the stock airbox. So I will undo this screw here. This is just a Phillips head or a 10mm socket. It's very difficult to get to with the battery in place. Obviously it just blocks this whole area. You're left with nowhere to move. So if I undo this, I'll be able to wiggle the mass airflow sensor free. Obviously I'll just unplug it as well. That's just this little clip. There we go. Keep this connector just out of the way. You don't want it getting wet. I'll just put it up like that. So yeah, I'll get my 10mm socket. We'll undo this and then we'll get the mass airflow sensor and the filter out. Okay guys, I've got the socket in place. Really I should be using a shallow socket, but it was inside and the deep socket was already outside, so I've had to just move this coolant man out of the way. But I'm just going to back it off just a couple of turns just to get some play. As you can see, it's not ratcheting now, so oh yeah, it is. So we're just getting this free. Excuse the shocking camera right there. You don't want to undo it all the way because that's just going to make it really annoying for later. But now that this is loose, this whole assembly should pop out of the hose and we'll get it inside to clean it. Okay guys, so I've got the filter and mass airflow sensor housing assembly free. You can just see there, this is why you want to use a smaller filter than mine, because it just catches. I'm not too worried about these holes. It is less than ideal. You don't want to be running it like this, but I haven't actually had any issues just yet. So my filter's fairly clean, so I won't bother giving it any sort of cleaning today. I did clean it quite recently. So just here's a quick tour of my custom mass airflow sensor housing. You do need two pieces of the airbox unfortunately, and you have to glue them together, and then I've also just cut down some nuts and bolts, and these holes I drilled myself to just bolt it all together as best as I could. Doing it like this, you don't get any leaks in the hosing, and the reason you want that is if you can see inside there, there's two vertical lines. So behind, oh there we go, lovely. So behind the mass airflow sensor, which is the circle piece, and then the actual wire there is the actual sensor, you've got these two veins, and for reasons unknown to science or the MR2 owners forums, these veins are crucial in maintaining proper airflow over your mass airflow sensor. So you really need to have these. If you're using a 3D printed one, make sure it comes with these veins. I used the stock one because I know they're correct. So all we're going to do, we're going to take a Phillips head screwdriver, pop the mass airflow sensor out of this tube, and then we'll give it a wash with some electrical contact cleaner. Just so you guys know, this is a Phillips head 1, if I can get it to focus, VH1 size screwdriver head, and it is just these 2 screws on either corner of the MAF airflow sensor, and you're just going to undo them. They should come nice and free because they're just screwed into plastic. But yeah, a bit tricky with one hand. And I will give these a quick wash as well, just because cleaning all your nuts and bolts makes your car easy to service, like I've said in every other video. Okay everyone, the MAF airflow sensor has been freed from its housing. It just pops out super easily. You can see in here, this is the wire end. So this side is the side that faces the filter. So when it's in the assembly, it goes that way around. Filter, this is where the dirty air comes through, clean air comes, well, it's cleaned by the filter hopefully. Evidently it isn't being cleaned. And you can also see that by the state of my MAF airflow sensor. We'll just try and get it to focus. There's some white background for us. It's all black on this side. On the other end though, it is, you can still see a metallic color. So what we're going to use is some electrical contact cleaner. We're using this because it's just a non-conductive and non-corrosive fluid. It just really, it's more of a degrease than anything else. But this stuff is not going to harm any of our electrical components. You could spray it on your plugs or all over the place without worrying. So we're going to use that. You can be extremely generous with this stuff. And I'm also going to use a clean and very soft bristled paintbrush. You don't want to be scrubbing on this. This wire is very delicate. But all we're going to do, you can spray absolutely tons of this stuff and just spray it all over our cleaner. That alone is going to do a lot. The brush is just going to help wipe things down. And you can do this, you might want to spend a lot of time, if you've never cleaned it, give it a good couple of passes, because it's just often overlooked, and there is no point in buying a new MAF. These are reasonably expensive if you can just clean up your old one. Alright guys, so I gave it 4 passes with the electrical contact cleaner. You can see now it's nice and shiny and silver in there. The end is sort of a dark red in colour naturally, so you don't need to worry about that. But the 2 connecting wires are what actually sense the airflow itself, and the top is just a resistor, and that's how this works. So the more airflow comes over it, it cools down the 2 wires, and the resistor picks that up and sends it back to the ECU through this plug. So now that that's nice and cleaned up, we can just slide it straight back into the housing like so, screw it back in with our screws, and we'll stick it back in the car. Okay, and it's all back in place. We can see that the filter is right where it used to sit because it's got its like sort of wear mark, I guess, on the battery thing. I've reconnected the MAF, the cable goes behind this coolant line, and I've just double checked that it's sitting on the throttle body / inlet manifold, exactly as I had it before, and that Jubilee clip is tight as well. So just a quick one guys, on this intake mod. If you do make one yourself, it is super easy, but you're not going to pick up any power. You don't need to worry about what the forums say. Every time I've put a picture on this on some of the MR2 owners groups, they tell me it's going to ruin my car. I've had this on for 50,000 miles. It's great. Makes a hell of a lot of noise. You don't make any more power, but it's just a lot of fun. You can just about see it sometimes, and it makes an awesome sucking noise through this filter. I would love to show you, but obviously I still have a flat battery. But yeah. Clean your MAF sensor. It's a really good little just maintenance item to do. That took 5 minutes, and it just cleans up the idle and makes sure the car is running as well as it can. So thanks for watching. I hope you found that one helpful as well, and I will see you guys in whatever my next video is going to be.